Yep, perfect, perfect. Okay, one more video. Lovely. Um, we are going to be talking about regional corporate security travel risk management. And we are joined by Lee Orton, Chief Operating Officer for Fortress Risk Management, Christian Lennison, Vice President, Managed Risk Services at Crisis 24, Patrick Kane, Director of Security at Atlas Air, Greg Schneider, founder of Battle Tested Solutions, and Chris Sieb, Manager, Protection, Security, and Intelligence at Netflix. What a panel. Great to welcome you.
Hey, Bob.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah.
Hey, Philip.
It's no secret that we haven't been traveling maybe as much as we had been traveling before, but that doesn't mean that we can't consider where we're going and what we should be thinking, especially in the realms of modernization. Again, this is not a COVID question, but in the last 12 months, can you give us a flavor of what everything has done to travel risk management? Let's set the scene. Kristen, why don't I start with you?
I think the appropriate term would be grind to a halt for the most part. Everything has really shut way back down. I think people were, maybe positive in the beginning, but I think right now there isn't a lot of travel, period. And so travel risk management, this is a really good time to kind of review what it used to look like and then kind of forecast out what it's going to look like.
Absolutely. Here in the UK, we are now not allowed to leave the country without a reasonable excuse. So things are changing. But Patrick, the world of cargo, surely that's still been exciting. What's been happening the last 12 months?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, our operations have been ongoing even in the face of COVID, but we've tended to go to kind of areas which were, I'd say, in general, was safer and more stable. And our crews were staying in hotels and restricted in terms of movement because of all the restrictions involving COVID. And I think the thing that will become an issue as things start opening up more is all the unknowns, because we think, our perception is that there's been a whole lot going on we haven't seen in the world. And perhaps hotels we used to stay at that we had approved have changed in terms of quality, or providers we've had that were excellent before either are not around or have had issues involving capabilities. So we kind of have to evaluate all of that all over as we start opening up into all these other markets, I think.
No, I like that. And I personally experienced it. I ran an event in Dubai in December, and I discovered that I was put up in a COVID isolation hotel, which was not the best thing. So you got to reassess everything. Things that were trustworthy before, maybe not so much. Greg, nice to welcome you. I like to include you because you're very, very big in the covert space. How have things changed for you? And of course, going forward, how do you think things are going to change, given that a lot of countries have now implemented a lot of technology? Is it going to mess up covert operations abroad? I know that's a bit of a bundle of a question, but that's what I want to know. I think you're on mute, Greg.
I knew that. Yes, most definitely. And, prior to COVID, think of the prep time, if it's a principle or policies you have for corporate travelers or government travelers abroad, what forth. Based on that agenda, you have to prep for that. That's your advance. Well, now, what I've seen over the past year is that prep time is a little bit more involved to really understand what's going on in each country, how are they handling COVID, what are their reporting mechanisms on COVID, and even stateside, which reporting mechanisms can you really trust with the data? So granted, when COVID hit, a lot of government technologies that were really reserved in the military space in terms of potential, if there's adversaries of a particular country or what have you, have now kind of expanded to track a lot more people. So I find that as perhaps the biggest concern in terms of traveling, covertly, if you will.
I like it. I like it. Well, then let's think about that reassessing and re-looking at things. Chris, how can we now know if our sources are correct? Because a lot of things have changed. How will we be able to make better decisions? Is this a chance to reset the trust playbook?
Yeah, perfectly well worded as far as the opportunity to reassess what that playbook looked like prior and what it should be looking like right now. Are you writing addendums to your playbook, or are you scrapping it into the bin and rewriting it? I think it's a little bit of a combination of both. I mean, I think one of the key indicators is ground truth. Are they the same? We've already spoken a little bit about that, the advanced prep time, and what does that mean? Well, it's, you know, who's going and why are they going? You're reassessing the whys, essentially. So if you're taking corporate folks and they're looking to break into pioneer new places, new verticals of business, continually basically assessing whether or not you actually practically need to be there, where we're all zooming in at the moment. Are we there yet to start hedging our bet that we need to start throwing those physical attributes, like for instance, borders and checkpoints, even testing? Are our teams bringing testing along with them? And do you have a go team ready should anyone bubble up to be positive? Or are you a freewheeling country where it's not even needed? So a lot of it goes back to, are you nimble enough to create a new playbook, or just basically add to it?
I like that, and maybe this is the opportunity so far. Well then, Lee, it sounds like we've got to not just reassess where we're getting our information from, but reassess our vendors. How can we do that, and what should we look out for?
Yeah, I think that we should all be reaching out to all of our vendors, partners, support collaborators, because a lot of those guys and girls right now are going to be spread very thin. Maybe they got hurt, I would say financially and from a resources perspective, through the pandemic. So it's essential for like every single one of us that's on the call and personalities that are in the audience is to make sure that you're reaching out to those support partners. And again, gathering that essential information, because the local partners are the ones that give you the secret sauce, right? I think, we'd all be naive and it would be very egotistical of us all to think that those ecosystems and environments are exactly the same. We've, take some of the things that we've said already, Kristen, grind to a halt, partners evaluating, Patrick, prep for advance, Greg, ground truth, Chris, Chris said being nimble again. So that plays into it, being nimble, understanding what the partners have. Do those partners have those additional assets if somebody goes down? Again, if if an incident happens and it goes outside of their capabilities, let's say it goes into a medical event, can they support that? Do they have the resources? So I think it's a great time for us to be creative too, and really step up to the plate as professionals.
And that's why it's interesting to have a regional panel, insofar as I guess Mexico is in fact part of the story, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people from the Southwest who come down, and it needs that reassessing. Kristen, are we seeing the emergence of white glove travel security? And if we are, let's tell everyone what white glove travel security is.
That's something that we're definitely looking at. So what we're considering kind of white glove travel security or white glove treatment with everything is now, instead of just going to countries that, you knew had a very strong healthcare systems, had good medical capacity within their countries, going from one country to another country, you used to not even have to worry about it. You used to worry about, do they have a trauma center? Do they have a helipad if we have to evacuate? Now you even have to look at, do they have the correct medical capacity? Are their healthcare systems becoming overwhelmed? Just Brazil this past week, they're talking about a potential collapse of the healthcare system there. So it's not just being able to travel where you want to safely as far as physical security, but it's definitely making sure that medical is now always layered on top of that. And I think the white glove travel kind of idea means that all travel is going to have to be looked at this way. It's not just to the critical places where we used to worry about physical security threats before. Everything now is going to have to be looked at all over again, just to ensure that you can, move through things physically, safely and securely, but also medically, is it at the level that you needed to look at? So it might be a little bit more white glove treatment, hand holding, a little bit more deep dives again into partners. And even if you knew that, we used to go to this hotel in this country and we used to go to this hospital in this country, you're going to need to redouble check everything at this point.
Mm. And especially that conversation with a principal, if they travel to China, and you might have read what they need to do, that requires hand holding. I mean, it does. It's not very nice. Patrick, I in the pre-conference call, I remember you said that perhaps things are not so bad with cargo because people are separating themselves a bit more. They're not going into the town. They're not hanging out in the location. But do you see the need for everyone to travel? Well, not everyone, but many people to travel with a medical doctor or at least a paramedic.
I think you need to have a plan in place is the important part. I think that you're not going to have one same answer for everybody. I think it depends on your circumstances. But I think even if you consider something like a car accident or a heart attack or something, particularly in an area where there were issues with healthcare, even earlier on, and if you have an entire system that's overwhelmed now because of all the patients who are in there with COVID, you may have a harder time having a response. You may have a harder time. And so I think you need to have more of an internal type of capability. And I think you need to kind of think through issues and scenarios that you perhaps hadn't before or hadn't expended all the same effort on before, perhaps. But yeah, I think over the COVID period, because travelers, including our air crews, have been somewhat restricted in movement, we perhaps haven't seen the incidents or had the same exposure. But I think as things start opening up, you're going to have a lot of kind of pent up energy to be out there on the town, be eating out, be stopping around, seeing things and so forth. And I think the important thing is our travelers are going to be in areas which perhaps have significantly changed since, like, let's say about the summer of 2020, fall of 2020, maybe.
And that significant change, is kind of a bit unnerving, isn't it? Because it could be that people are open to extortion, for example, in ways that maybe we haven't considered before. Greg, would COVID vaccination extortion or any sort of scam or trick, is that going to be a reality? Is there any sense that we've got to worry about that? Are you on mute, Greg?
It very may well be. Because we have to look at those countries where traditionally some type of extortion kind of was always going on, kind of under wraps. The local police department kind of braces the tourists in a way and pays them a little extra money so they don't, put a fine on them or throw them in jail. Now with the COVID and testing, there's a number of ways how this can, of course, be exploited by even some of those local police agencies or state-run agencies to extort from the travelers or the corporate team or what have you, money to say, oh, wait, your test came back negative. I mean, positive, sorry. You're going to have to stay 2 more weeks. Like, no, I have meetings over there. I have to. Well, maybe there's I have a way how I could kind of work you through, push you through onto the airport, but that just may cost you a little extra, whatever. That kind of thing. So sometimes this could be a crime of opportunity, or it could be a real thought out scam in certain regions or countries where that type of practice was already there. And this is just another tool to use to leverage travelers that have important agendas.
I think we're all used to there's a page missing in your passport. We're used to that type of thing, and all you do is you just keep silent, and then it goes away. But I think this would scare people. This could scare people unless we do the right white glove treatment and handhold them. Considering this is a modernization forum, Chris, what do you think the role of bespoke travel security intel or tech is going to have, given that a lot of it seeks to be automated, but yet your principal is going somewhere very specific at a specific time? Is the tech out there too automated to be bespoke enough for your needs? Are you the tech? What does modernization mean in travel risk management?
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of trying to crack the nut of what modernization is all day today on these panels. In all fairness, I think we as security professionals are always in this mode of iteration, and that old and antiquated is equals death, and adaptation and the ability to philosophize whatever the next needs are ultimately going to be. And I mean, we can look back at just the last year with COVID, is that everyone had to pivot. Everyone had to pivot. So it wasn't just, hey, we need to start applying knowledge to certain sectors of individuals. It's that everyone has to play ball with this. There's no way around it. And so the security professional ultimately is setting themselves up for reassessing their battle space or their operating space, or the way, if they're a manager, how they're operating and running their teams. And then if you're a solo proprietor, moving your principal around, is that I don't believe any of it's really ultimately changed. It's just whatever rolling with the punches means this year, this week, this moment. So you can talk about the different ways of modernization by way of converging the cyber and the physical side. Well, of course, I mean that a la carte menu of what tool to use and what situation, I think will never ultimately go away. I just think it's that agility piece, having the wherewithal to know your business and that of the people that you're trying to take care of. And modernization ultimately means is that you rest on your laurels. And I guess in the old mill sector, we say like the complacency kills, and it doesn't have to be that dramatic, but it's kind of part of the thing. So as long as we're not switched off and the team mentality is to stay in the forefront, modernization is just a natural progression. And if you're caught behind the 8 ball, well, I think we might have just lost.
But I like the roll with the punches, because roll with the punches, even at the very beginning, we said, does modernization mean tech, or could it mean adaptability, which I suppose you could reword as rolling with the punches. Lee, have you been rolling with the punches?
I've got no black eyes at the moment, mate, so nobody's been punching me, thank goodness. I love where Chris was going. I think the cool thing is, where can we go as professionals with the industry in terms of our creativity? I think we've got a wonderful opportunity here to, like we were saying earlier, to reset, new benchmarking, set the standards. And again, we talk about convergence a lot. I've been on a lot of these sessions and forums talking about, GSOCs, VSOCs. I just think it's an outstanding opportunity for us to bring all of the talent space together that we've got in this amazing industry, work as a community on the whole, and really pick each other's brains, and try and get this emergence and merge together, cyber, physical, intel, and all the different facets. So again, because a lot of us are service providers to our clients, and those that work for corporations are providing services to their business units. So I think it's time for us to really excel, start a new norm. I think it's exciting times for us. I think we should always take the positivities out of the negative situation that we're all living right now. And I think it pushes us all again as professionals to be bigger and better. And again, we can come together and just keep pushing and see what the future holds. So for me, being really positive of what we can all do.
And Lee, can I then ask, because in Mexico, I think maybe you've had a little more mobility than other countries, and yet there are still Americans coming from the Southwest, given this is the Southwest Forum, across the border.
Correct.
How have you had to adapt and pivot with the whole COVID thing going on?
Us as a business, I think it's more setting new protocols. Obviously, we've got to protect those individuals that are coming down. We've got to create that awareness, security culture too. I've been working with some other partners that have been putting some amazing, kind of travel awareness videos together that have been very virtual and interactive. Me again, myself and my team, we're going virtually and kind of like, Kristen was talking about the white glove hand in hand. Well, we've been virtually hand in hand, walking, clients coming in and out. Cancun and Cabo has still been, relatively, accessible. That being said, Mexico has been one of the worst hit countries with COVID. I don't really want to get onto politics and talk about the government and the handling of it. I'm humbled and blessed that as a business we're doing successful. But I think again, as an industry, we've got the opportunity to really show to a lot of organizations of how much added value security really gives to enterprises and corporations, and we really have showcased how we've enabled businesses. And again, as practitioners, we've diversified into different professional realms that we didn't have a clue about a year ago. So it's been a great learning experience. And going back to Mexico is that, yes, we've been open for business and I'm thankful for that. But again, as a company, we've kind of evolved and we've pivoted and we've gone into different ecosystems and added to our capabilities. And that's what I'll say to anybody that, again, is standing still as a business. Never stand still. And as a professional, never stand still. You've got to, learn what others are doing. And again, how you can be proactive, forecast, and get ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. For my sins, I'm trying a cryptocurrency and NFT artwork security forum later in this month for physical security practitioners. That's not standing still, but it is treacle. Now we've got some nice comments. We've got Carlos says, thank you. Terrell says, great answer, Chris. Diego agrees with a lot of points. Douglas says, agrees with 2 points. Douglas says, collaboration increase your opportunities so long as you are choosing your teams properly and the handoffs are trusted. I have been very lucky working with Lee and his team. An insider who have proven themselves. Chris was addressing complacency will get you killed, but so will patterns. Great discussion so far. And Carlos, who is up next, says great stuff. Kristen, I'd like to ask then, we're talking about travel risk management and the ability to refresh or reset. How can we reevaluate all our SOPs? What does that reevaluation actually look like? If we come away from today's conference and we're going to do it, what does it look like?
I think a lot of it, obviously going back through your SOPs and making sure that everything is kind of up to date with all this new information now. I mean, I'm sure everyone's got their major crisis contingency plans, their communications plans, everything else along those. But what if a significant chain in or link in your chain is down with COVID? How would you reassess it? How would you reevaluate it? It's more than just kind of looking at them once a year like you do and updating them like you should. It's really looking at them now in this whole new context of a global pandemic of, we do have to keep moving product around. We do have to keep people in communication. Very, very quickly, I mean, everyone did a fantastic job all of a sudden going into Zoom meetings and Teams and Blue Jeans and all the other sorts of platforms that are out there. And I think that everyone pivoted very quickly with that. But then again, it's looking at it with, this is what happened this time, but what happens next time? Another one is also just ensuring that you're constantly reviewing the restrictions and reviewing what is actually applicable to do, because you want to make your crisis management plans, not just for another like complete global lockdown, but you want to make them ready for getting back out there and traveling again. And then also getting back to business, getting folks back into the office. So I think it's important to obviously look at what they look like in conjunction with COVID, but then also how do you need to modify them moving forward to say the next step is back to business. And what does that look like?
I like it. And then, what's next or what could be next? And this is not airborne Ebola, but, what's next? Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we've just got a couple of minutes because we're running 5 behind, but it's okay. We can keep on doing it. Patrick, what's your advice for our corporate security audience? Obviously, not everyone is in travel risk management. What should they be thinking about? Refresh the SOPs. We've had a look at that. Anything else we could impart for the modernization piece?
Well, I think kind of at the macro, it is an opportunity, right? It is an opportunity to examine our procedures, our processes. How can we improve them in the context of the situation we're having now with being in this pandemic crisis and now emerging, hopefully, out of it. But also what else is going to happen? I mean, I think this has been an excellent exercise in being, I think, adaptable and flexible, resilient, and so forth. And I think we have to kind of capitalize on that right now.
I like it. Greg, what are you going to impart to people when they update their SOPs? Travel risk management. What's your message? You're on mute, Greg.
So, yeah, again, going back to actually my previous spiel on how the age of COVID could be leveraged. I mean, that's something to really look into as far as with executives in travel or just business people in travel. Like usually you have your phone. Normally we have a GPS on our phone and because of the convenience factor. Well, now you may be going to a country where, you have to download their app on your phone. So that could be a risk there. Now, let's say with executives, you may have your personal phone and whatever, kind of like almost a throwaway phone that for other purposes. But if you expand that to all of those employees that have have traveled previously, I remember the former head of HP Travel Security said on a given day, he had 14,000 people in the air. Now, are 14,000 people going to travel with their 2 phones and all this and their important information? So it's not just protecting the people and having those resources, but also protecting that information. And then I guess just seeing it's kind of like explodes these issues where you could be in a country that you have to go to and you could be vaccinated, have your whatever passport. But we still need to take a test. And guess what? Now that principal's DNA is now in that country's possession. And what's that used for? Can't be used for. So just for the purpose of the test, because even that is getting repurposed, some even overtly here in America, but also abroad. So really, bearing down, thinking of every potential possible threat. Some could be way out there and remote, but you have to really look at those countries where people are traveling to and the capabilities of those countries out there. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's chilling. That's chilling. But I'm glad we're thinking about it. And of course, even in the news lately, someone has a Pfizer vaccine or an AstraZeneca, and then some country will only accept a Sinovac, and you're like, well, what? Anyway, Chris, what should we tell everybody about travel risk management? What are they going to look out for?
The management side would be is empowering and enabling those folks under your remit. I mean, if you're able to provide at least a duty of care and a level of due diligence to imparting what you know or what the team knows or what's changing from the day to day, I think, especially in a corporate organization, is that you're doing the right thing, not just of what's required, but doing the right thing, especially when folks you kind of sometimes have to cater to basic human nature, and that's not always in tune with folks like ours and our situation awareness that we wear pretty proudly. But that's part of our job, and ensuring that they are educated to the point where they're able to then be humans and make their decisions, and just try to be there to support and keep pushing for them to do their best work.
I love it. Great sentiments. But now we are out of time. So please give Lee, Kristen, Chris, Greg, and Patrick a wonderful virtual round of applause. This is quite an exciting panel because, of course, we're all looking forward to traveling, hopefully at some time. It's great welcoming you, and I'll see you in the audience.